Hi, John. So as somebody working in the property industry, day in, day out, and speaking to landlords and investors, where do you see the property market in 2021 going?
I mean, that's the ultimate question, isn't it? I mean, I don't think anybody saw what happened in 2020. So it has been a little bit of a difficult roller coaster of a last 12 months. I mean, at the minute, we are riding on high of that sort of depressed market. So we came out of COVID restrictions and then the market's just gone ballistic. So we're renting everything that's coming on the market. We're selling everything that's coming on the market, a little bit more than what we would have valued it at 12 months ago. So for the time being, I think it's just we're going to have this incredibly busy market. It does have to subside a little bit. It will be subdued, but it's not a question of if, it's just more a question of when. So, but my personal opinion is 2021, it's going to continue. I think it's going to slow down towards the back end of the year because you've got things like the job retention scheme, the furlough scheme, that's going to end. Bounce back loans and CIBIL loans have to be paid.
Yeah.
There's going to be a little bit more unemployment, depending what stats you look at. It could rise from 4.5% to 8%. So I think it's going to be much more the same, but hopefully it will slow down a little bit because then, if houses keep going like that, it's going to create an unnatural bubble, and we all know what happened with the last bubble.
Indeed. So as we come out of a unprecedented global pandemic, where do you see landlords needing to focus their attention with the increased government legislation, extra sort of implications with tax? What do you see that landlords need to really bear in mind in 2021?
I think landlords need to start taking it seriously as a business. I think far too long, myself included, when I first started out, it was a couple of properties for a pension, didn't take it serious, didn't look into the legislation, pretty much for the first year or two, didn't even look into the tax implications, although, I trust my accountant to have it back. But the bigger you get and the further on we go, it's very clear that the government don't want small landlords. It's very clear. They don't particularly like small landlords. They're trying to tax them out of the marketplace. And the reason is exactly that. You can't tax lots and lots of little things, and it's much easier to tax bigger things. It's the same for letting agents and businesses in general. It's much easier to tax one big business than it is several thousand small businesses. So if we're going to compete with the big boys, if we're going to continue along the lines of being a landlord, then you have to take it seriously like a business, and that includes operational, financial, and legislative as well, i.e. compliance. So make sure you understand all the laws and the compliance issues. Get ahead of the game. If not, get a good letting agent that is. Understand the finances, or get a good accountant. And operational, if you're self-managing, understand the best way of looking after your tenants. If you're not, then obviously pick a letting agent that's got a good understanding of operations as well. So whatever you do, just make sure you do it to the best of your ability. You take it serious and you start treating it as a business. We're taxed as a business. Compliance-wise, it's looked upon as a business. The only person that doesn't look upon a business is lots of smaller landlords.
Absolutely, and it has been a very much cottage industry. It's the dinner party landlord. Obviously, middle class have perhaps benefited from the rising house prices and the accidental landlords that have made up probably the vast majority of landlords in this country. Do you see any specific opportunities that 2021 perhaps holds for landlords looking to diversify or looking to consolidate? Anything in particular you see on the horizon?
I'm quite a vanilla, boring sort of investor. I mean, I've got quite a reasonably sized portfolio, and I just go for the 2 up, 2 downs, or 3 up, 2 down. I don't try anything fancy. I've had HMOs, I've had lease options, I've got commercials that have been rented out throughout the pandemic. So I'm very boring when it comes to that sort of stuff. I've got a place abroad that's just rented out to one guy and has been for 4 or 5 years.
Sure.
So I'm boring, if I'm honest, but I like safe bets.
Yeah, no, I'm very much vanilla in many ways and love the boring. And that's a way I say to landlords that they can scale up by having lots of very boring investments that you then can scale, whereas without that, you won't be able to. And so do you have any advice for the common mistakes that you see landlords making and tips how to avoid them?
The biggest one I see is cutting corners and being cheap. So, they spend more time looking for the cheapest skirting board or the cheapest boiler or the cheapest person who's going to fix the electrics. Quality costs. If you want something to last, you've got to pay for it quality-wise. The second thing is the cut in the corners, especially when it comes to paperwork to put somebody in. They don't serve the how to rent guide or the gas safety or the Legionella or, EICRs. And unfortunately, that comes to bite them on the bum later on if they ever need to try and evict.
Indeed.
So have a process, understand the process, understand why you do every step of the way in terms of putting somebody in or maintaining a property or operating a property, especially as a business, and just make sure you stick to it. It's a process for a reason. If you don't do it, there's got to be consequences. It's always going to be an action and a reaction. So make sure whatever you do, it's to keep your tenants safe, to keep your investment safe, but also as profitable as you can. Because if you don't do the repairs or you don't respond quick enough or you're not a great landlord, you will lose that tenant.
Yeah.
You will lose them, and you've got void periods and you've got to find tenants again, and it's a whole nightmare. So you don't want that churn of tenants. Just make sure it's a really nice property, kept up to date, and you'll get an endless supply of good tenants.
The fundamentals, almost covering your bases.
Absolutely, 100%. Just keep it. Property is very, very simple, right? Just keep it simple, keep it basic. Good roof over the head. Look after them. They'll look after you.
Yeah, no, it's we're not trying to build space rockets, and if we were, I would be in the wrong industry.
Exactly.
Great. So you've talked about the key stakeholders that landlords need to sort of have in their team. It's not necessarily banded about, but a power team. Do you have people that you encourage landlords to focus on making sure that they have around them, perhaps letting agent, accountant, so on?
Yeah, so the three main ones are, a letting agent who, by the very nature of having a good letting agent, will have a good set of contractors, approved contractors, a good accountant, and a good solicitor. So those are the three key people that if you want to after a property portfolio and you want to expand it and grow it, and a mortgage broker as well. So they will get you. That's if you're looking to expand it. If you're not, then it's 3. If you want to expand it, then it's definitely 4.
Cool.
If you want to sell or buy, build up relationships with not only a letting agent but local estate agents as well, who hopefully should give you good deals. But it's imperative, as in any business, you need to have. I hate using the word power team, as I know you do, but you do need that close set of colleagues and people that you can work with.
Absolutely. No, surrounding yourself with people, perhaps specialists in their field. Perfect. And so if a landlord was coming to you to ask how they choose a letting agent, what sort of advice do you give to people when deciding which letting agent to go with?
Yeah, so due diligence is key on this. Although it's not imperative, we ask people to make sure that they are ARLA qualified, with Association of Residential Letting Agents, Property Mark ARLA, and that is the largest organisation in the UK for letting agents. Now, that doesn't guarantee you're going to get a good letting agent, but I know a hell of a lot more poor letting agents who are not ARLA than those who are ARLA, and it's not even close. It's a huge difference. So that's the first thing. You've got to have client money protection by law, so if anything happens, your money's protected. Visit them. You are going to entrust your largest ever asset in the hands of somebody that you might not know or you've just spoken to for 10 minutes on a phone. Do not go for the cheapest agent. Cheap is never better.
Sure.
You get the cheapest meal, you buy the cheapest car, you wear the cheapest clothes. It's never the best, and it's the same here. You can get cost, economies, if you like. They can be economic, they can be good value, but you don't want to be the most expensive, but you definitely don't want to be the cheapest. You've got to be trying to find somewhere in the middle. Make sure that they've got the processes right as well. Ask questions like, what's your registration process? How often do you pay your rents? How do you credit reference them? Do you have your own maintenance guys? Ask for a copy of the management agreement, which is perfectly fine. All the costs should be detailed on there, and just check them out. Honestly, if somebody says we're 10% and you try and get them down to 5 or 6%, something's got to give. You're going to get a poor service. Absolutely. So you've just got to accept that.
Yeah, I mean, I encourage people to mystery shop. That's a good way, and almost try and break their process. Ask them, try and not necessarily catch them out, but ask them how they deal with certain situations that could come up, specifically around rental arrears or problem tenants. Perfect. So as a letting agency owner yourself, I'm sure you've considered this a lot. What do you feel makes a good letting agent a great letting agent?
Two things: people and processes.
Okay.
So it's all about people first. So it's all about how much you can train your staff. Employing somebody just to sit down and take phone calls and chase arrears is not good training and development. So what sort of training and development do they place on their staff?
Yeah.
We're quite fortunate to have Investors in People Gold accreditation. So training our staff is at the forefront of whatever we do. It's one of the pillars of our vision statement. So make sure that your staff are engaged and that they're highly skilled, trained professionals. And the second thing is that they've got to follow a process. You follow a process for pretty much everything. If you follow the process, 99.99999% of the time, you'll get a positive outcome.
Yeah.
You just know that the one time you don't follow the process, the proverbial is going to hit the fan. So if you're a processy person and they place a lot of importance on upskilling and training the team and their colleagues, then you're with a pretty good agent. You're with a great agent. When you put profit above people, or you don't have a passion for the job, or you can just tell they're cutting corners, that's the sort. And with any industry, that's the sort of people you want to stay well clear of. So people and processes are the difference for me from a good agent to a great agent.
Wonderful. No, absolutely. Well, thank you very much indeed for your time. Where can people go to learn more about you and also the services that your property companies offer to landlords in the northeast of England?
Yeah, sure. If you Google any of our businesses, Castledene, estate agents, Hegarty's, Gordon Lamb. So we've got a number of brands in the northeast. Just connect with me on Instagram, John Paul Mentor, or John Paul on Facebook, and I'll be more than happy to connect with anyone who wants to have a chat.
Thank you very much indeed. Thank you.
Always. Thanks, Chris.